Christmas. We were at Pastoral.
Good morning, and welcome to First Church Unitarian. My name is Peter Ersland. I serve on the Standing Committee, and I'm happy to be here this morning. We have a number of items in the community matters that I'd like to just bring up, but even before that, I want to show you this lovely 3-ring binder with a page for sign up to help with RE. Very important for us to do. We need to make sure that we have adults who are willing to help and participating in the RE programs. So Thea has this sign up sheet. It's in the vestry. And if you can't get to the vestry to sign up, just contact Thea and she'd be happy to put you on the sheet. Item number 1. Item number 2. This week is busy, including on Friday evening, a family-friendly dance party. I see Allan is here. Allan will be DJing us on Friday night. I'm sorry, Saturday night. The community matters is correct. Always pay attention to what's there instead of me. So even if you haven't signed up before, show up, pay at the door. $10 individuals, $20 for a family. Bring your friends, bring your children. Should be a great time. I have 2 more items. The third one I'm going to just touch on quickly. Remember that the warranted meeting is October 22nd. And if you have an item that you want to bring to the warranted meeting, please let the Standing Committee know, I would say within the next week and a half, if at all possible. Standing Committee meets early in October, and we will review any items that people bring up. And last but definitely not least, we're a month away, less than a month away, from the church fair. Church fair is on Saturday, October 14th, from 10 to 2 p.m. And there's a nice description of it in the Community Matters. I want to point out just a couple of things. Drop-off for Trash to Treasure is only on Friday the 13th or Saturday in the morning on Saturday the 14th. Please don't bring things to leave in the church beforehand. There's too much going on in the church. We don't have places to store things. So bring your Trash to Treasure items either Friday the 13th or Saturday. If you have books are the one exception. If you have books, bring them to the vestry anytime in the week before the fair. But Trash to Treasure items, please wait until Friday or Saturday. But also, please get involved, participate. The Community Matters describes what things you can all do to help. And if you have any questions, you can email fair@fculittle.com, and somebody will absolutely reach out and get you involved. Pardon? .org, I'm sorry. Oh, I see, yes. In the Community Matters, it says FCULittle.com, but it should be FCULittle.org. Okay. There are many other things in the Community Matters. Please review them. Again, I'm happy to see you all here, whether you're in person or online. We welcome you. Enjoy the service. Please either silence your cell phones or put them in worship mode, and enjoy the prelude.
We gather at the beginning of autumn, the season of turning leaves. We gather in the midst of the most important of days for our religiously observant Jewish siblings and friends. May we have the open mind to appreciate wisdom from ancient traditions, even if they are not our own. May we have the open heart to ask for forgiveness when we have done wrong. May we have the courage to turn ourselves, to change, to mend ourselves and our world. Let us worship. I'd like to invite Isabel to come up and light our chalice this morning. And as Isabel lights our chalice, I invite you to join me in saying the words of our covenant. Love is the spirit of this church, and service its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. Thank you. Good morning. Good morning. I join with Peter in welcoming you here to First Church Unitarian in Littleton, Massachusetts. My name is Lara Hoke, pronouns she, her, and I'm so happy and lucky to be the minister serving this incredible congregation. If you are here with us this morning for the first time, in person or online, if you're here with us in person, we're happy to see you and hope that you will join us, follow us out to the vestry after the service for fellowship and coffee. If you are here with us newly online, we hope that you'll go to the website, fculittle.org, and there you'll find lots of information and ways to contact us if you wish. We have a great service ahead of us today. We are thinking about, of course, the Jewish holiday Yom Kippur, which starts today at sundown and ends tomorrow at nightfall. Today, our lay pastoral minister is Jan Dustin. So if you have any pastoral concerns today, you can seek out Jan or one of our other lay pastoral ministers, or of course me if you wish. So let's start right out with a very traditional song for Yom Kippur. It's hymn number 217 in the gray hymnal, O Sing Alleluia, and the lyrics will also be on the screens. I invite you to rise in body or spirit. So the beautiful Prelude translates to the blower of the shofar. And so this is a shofar. Natalie knows what this is because she's covered her ears. So a shofar is blown for certain Jewish holidays. It is blown especially on Rosh Hashanah, which was last week, which is Jewish New Year. The central mitzvah for Rosh Hashanah is to go to the synagogue and hear the shofar blow. It's the day of the shofar blast. And there are 100 shofar blasts at a Rosh Hashanah service. I'm not going to blow it 100 times, don't worry. But Yom Kippur, it's blown at the very end of the service, and it's blown to let observant Jews know that the fast is over, the 25-hour fast. And so in the days before social media, you listen to this and know that you could eat again. So this is a horn in both senses of the word. It is a horn because it comes from an animal. It's also a horn in that it's an instrument you blow into, like trumpets and trombones and such are sometimes called horns. This particular one, they're usually ram's horns, traditionally, to remind you of the story of Abraham and Isaac. This particular one, although it is kosher, comes from a kudu, which is an African antelope. And happily, no animal was harmed. These apparently sort of shed or fall off naturally, and that's where it came from. So would you like to hear it? It's literally supposed to be a wake-up call, to wake you up out of your spiritual slumber and call you into good action. So with that, I'll turn it over to Thea and Debbie, I believe.
And Peter. A late addition. What an addition. Okay, so you guys wait. I'll tell you when to come up. Can you bring that closer to me? So this is an old story. It's adapted by, I forget, one person, and then I've readapted it. And it's What If No One Forgave? Can you hear me? Okay. Like that? Okay. And I think it's appropriate for Yom Kippur. In a land far away, a wise old woman knew a great deal about people because she traveled from place to place, and she arrived in a strange village. In this town, all the people were carrying bundles on their backs. They couldn't look around very well, and they never looked up because of the heavy burdens they carried. Puzzled, the old woman finally stopped someone on the street. "My good woman, I am a stranger in your land and fascinated by the large bundles you all carry but never seem to put down. What is the purpose?"
"Oh, these are our grudges."
My, that's a lot of grudges to collect.
"Oh, they're not all mine. Most of them were passed down from my family. See that man over there? Well, I have quite a load of grudges against his family. His great-great-grandfather called my great-great-grandfather, a horse thief. When they both wanted to be elected mayor."
You all look so unhappy. Is there no way to get rid of these burdens?
"Oh, we've forgotten how. You see, at first we were very proud of our grudges. Tourists came from miles around. But after a few years, Grudgeville, this place, became dreary. Nobody came. And we had forgotten how to stop holding our grudges.
Well, if you really want to get rid of those grudges, I think I know 5 magic words that could do the trick.
You do?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that would be a miracle. I'll go and have the mayor call the people of Grudgeville together.
Well, the mayor lost no time calling the people to the village. The mayor and the wise woman stood on a platform where they could see all the hunched-over villages. When the people had quieted down, the mayor said, "Good people of Grudgeville, a wonderful thing has happened. A very wise stranger has come to our town. She says she can tell us magic words that will get rid of these grudges we have carried for generations. How many of you would like to straighten up, have grudges disappear, look at the world in a whole new way? Listen to the wise words of our visitor and do as she tells you." My friends, these are simple words, yet some people find them very hard to say. I think you have the courage to speak them. The trick is that you must say them to each other and truly mean it. The first words, 2 words, are, "I'm sorry." Can you all say that? I'm sorry. Good. The other 3 words are, "I forgive you." Can you all say that? I forgive you. Now, say these words to each other. And there was a long pause, then a low grumble from the townspeople. First one person, then another said the words, and soon they were all saying them to each other, quietly at first, and then louder and louder. And then, would you believe it, just like that wise woman predicted, the grudges disappeared. What joy there was in town. People were heard saying, "Look how those trees have grown." And is that you, Jim? How good to see your face. There was dancing in the streets that day, and it wasn't long before the mayor changed the name of the town to Joyville. Thank you, Debbie and Peter.
Yom Kippur is in part about collective action. And in that spirit this morning, for our offering, the funds that we gather collectively have the potential to do a far greater good for ourselves and for the world than if we were spending them individually. May this morning's offering sustain and grow the efforts of this congregation. This morning's offering will now be given and received in grateful appreciation. Please join with me in the words of our community response. We are grateful for the opportunity to give and serve, and grateful for the gifts we have received. May this affirm the ministries of our church community, both within and beyond these walls. Most weeks, this congregation has a special time that we call the Candles of Caring. This is a chance to share those cares dearest to you with this gathered beloved community. If you have a very important joy or concern that you wish to share this morning, if you're on Zoom, you can raise your hand in the reactions area and we will call on you. If you are here in person, we're going to do it like we did last week. We'll ask that you, if you're able, sort of line up on the side aisles and come forward to the microphone. And we will light a candle for you. And then we will light a candle for those with joys or concerns to share online as well. We ask that you let us know your name and briefly how we might direct our thoughts, prayers, and healing wishes. Are there any candles of caring this morning? Once again, we have come together in love and trust, sharing those cares dearest to us with this gathered, beloved community. Let us hold in our hearts, prayers, healing wishes, all of those joys and concerns spoken aloud this morning, as well as those that remain unspoken, as we share together in a time of sacred silence. Amen, and blessed be. If we could show the next slide. This past Thursday, I got arrested in Boston with My mother is not clapping at home, I know. Sorry, Mom. I got arrested this Thursday in Boston with about 20 other climate activists. We were participating in a nonviolent act of civil disobedience, which was very impressively coordinated and planned by the organization called Extinction Rebellion. We were demanding that the Commonwealth of Massachusetts commit itself to creating no new fossil fuel infrastructure. We were asserting that the time for major decisive action is now, that it's too late for incrementalism. So we blocked traffic with our banners, and I'm in the middle there with a clerical collar and sort of sunglasses. And on the far right is another UU minister, Reverend Suzanne Skubik and Trilogator. So we blocked traffic during the morning rush hour in Boston's financial district, probably about a 20 to 30 minute delay all told. And we know that people hate this tactic. But we were optimistic that it would get press coverage, and it did. It got far more mainstream media coverage than a lot of these actions do. It was covered by the Boston Globe and Herald and AP and others. The last time I did something like this was also civil disobedience for the climate. It was protesting the new pipeline being built in the West Roxbury neighborhood of Boston. And that one got almost no mainstream attention. And in fact, we lost that battle. That was back in 2016. The West Roxbury gas pipeline was built and is operating now. And I can't believe that that was 7 years ago. I have been remiss. I can't afford to wait another 7 years to use my prophetic role as a clergy person to draw attention to the climate crisis. I have to step up my game. We all do. We all have a role in the struggle against the climate catastrophe, and we each have to find our niche. More on that later. You can show the next slide if you want, just briefly. We are there in front of I don't know what else to call it but a paddy wagon, although that's an ethnic slur. But yes, we had the plastic cuffs behind our backs. So you can go to a prettier picture next. There we go. So the question today is, for starters, what does this have to do with Yom Kippur? As I mentioned during our welcome, starting today at sundown and ending tomorrow at nightfall, our Jewish neighbors and friends will observe Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement. And it's the most important Jewish holiday on the calendar. It's the Sabbath of Sabbaths. And so in addition to the usual Sabbath prohibitions for observant Jews, there's also this 25-hour fast, and observant Jewish people are also supposed to forego bodily pleasures in general for that period. And all of this, of course, takes place in the context of Rosh Hashanah, the Jewish New Year, having just been celebrated. And that period in between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur is known as the Days of Awe. And you're supposed to think about where you've gone wrong, where you might need to ask for forgiveness. And Yom Kippur is basically the deadline for figuring that out and getting it right. And if you have done well, or where you have transgressed, asked for forgiveness and received it, God will inscribe your name in the book of life. So at the heart of Yom Kippur for traditional Jewish people is the concept of atonement and teshuvah. Teshuvah is a Hebrew word that is often translated as repentance, but probably a better translation is turn or return. For observant Jews, atonement, which can be broken down to at one meant, would mean becoming one with God, and teshuvah would mean returning to God and God's commandments. A more humanistic Jewish version of this would be something like returning to our best selves, returning to our highest ethics, ideals, perhaps turning to and living in harmony with nature and other beings. Now, just asking for and receiving forgiveness, even making amends, isn't quite enough. To complete the process of teshuvah, or turning, we also need to change. There needs to be a change of heart and a change of behavior. It's the only way to show that indeed you were truly repentant. At first glance, Yom Kippur and the process of teshuvah seems to be a very personal process, but that isn't really the whole truth. In spite of wishing to have one's own name inscribed in the book of life, Yom Kippur is not ultimately about personal salvation. That's not really the way Judaism works. It's not even at the end about personal atonement. Yom Kippur is ultimately about communal atonement. If you listen closely to the words of the traditional prayers and lyrics for Yom Kippur, you'll note that the pronoun that's used again and again is we. It's not I. And Kol Nidrei, which Molly played for our offertory so beautifully, The words are recited in synagogues every Yom Kippur, and the translation of those Aramaic words is, in part, we repudiate, and our vows, and our oaths. The beautiful anthem you heard this morning, Shlosha Devarim, is a setting of a maxim from Jewish morality laws, translated as, the world is sustained by three things: by truth, by justice, and by peace. The focus is on the world, not self, not the individual. And likewise with many other Jewish prayers, as well as Yom Kippur prayers, there's always that reminder that we're all in this together. Judaism has a powerful call to Tikkun Olam, Hebrew for to heal the world. And this is our call as Unitarian Universalists too. It's not enough for me to have a change of heart and behavior. It's not enough for you to have a change in heart and behavior. We must find a way to change the collective heart and the collective ways of the world, all of us. We are called to ask more of ourselves than making piecemeal and incremental changes. So the deep heart of Yom Kippur is at one-ment, turning from selfish ways toward ways that are good for all. As Rabbi Irving Greenberg puts it, when people turn, they come out stronger. Yom Kippur is a time when out of the brokenness, we become stronger than when we claimed to be whole. In the novel Nick and Nora's Infinite Playlist, which was later a movie, authors Rachel Cohn and David Leviathan write, with the world being broken, maybe it isn't that we're supposed to find the pieces and put them back together. Maybe we're the pieces. Maybe what we're supposed to do is come together. That's how we stop the breaking. Tikkun Olam. But again, what does any of this have to do with the climate crisis? In her 2021 article, Transforming Grief, Climate Catastrophe and Us, Yom Kippur, Rabbi Toba Spitzer writes, the high holy days, these 10 days of Teshuvah, are fundamentally about life and death. We chant the litany of possible fates in store for humanity in the new year. Who shall live and who shall die, and who by fire and who by flood? The cycle of life and death is, of course, the most natural thing there is. She goes on, yet there is something going on now that has brought the realities of life and death into focus in a deeply troubling way. I'm speaking about the climate emergency that we are living through at this moment. Like Rabbi Spitzer, I don't want to leave you wallowing in grief. There is still so much hope, and it comes from you. It comes from us. It comes from each and from all of us. Young Swedish climate activist Greta Thunberg has said, we do need hope, of course we do, but the one thing we need more than hope is action. And once we start to act, hope is everywhere. Once we start to act, hope is everywhere, she says. I wholeheartedly agree. We are the repairers of the world. We are the doers of action. We are the bringers of hope. And I also agree with Thunberg that once you start to act, you do find hope everywhere. One of my glimmers, to go back again to what we talked about last week, one of my glimmers is the amazing feeling you have when you are part of something greater than yourself. The feeling you have when you meet comrades and make new friends working for the greater good. I enjoyed my experience on Thursday. It came with some physical and even some emotional pain. Some of the things that people yelled at us, I could not repeat here. But we got kind words of solidarity too. and the Ziploc ties around our wrists were tight, and they were on far too long for about the first hour and a half of about 9 hours that my group spent in captivity. I'm out on personal recognizance now, by the way. Arraignment in November. But we could hear each other from our individual cells, and we started to sing songs of hope to each other and with each other. Songs of hope and justice and love. And then we had more comrades waiting on the outside, waiting for us to be freed. They waited out there all those hours. And they were waiting for us with snacks and help returning to the tea or our carpool vehicles at the end of the day. So all in all, I won't say that it was fun, but it was a good day. The next day, the day spent in court, wasn't fun either, but again, our relationships and bonds with each other continued to develop and grow along with our resolve. It was inconvenient and uncomfortable and a little tiresome, but yet it was strangely hopeful. Those of us participating in civil disobedience to draw attention to the climate crisis have chosen, at least in part, this role of prophetic action in working to fight the climate catastrophe. We have certain privileges of situation that allow us to choose this path. We have bodies that are able enough to do it, at least in this moment. We have life situations that enable it, at least at this moment. Clergy have a certain leeway to do such things. And there were others there who worked jobs where they have flexibility and employers who understand. And some of us were young adults who have maybe flexible or part-time jobs and live with supportive parents. And some of us were retired and still able-bodied and so on. So we had the conditions that enabled the role. But there are so many possible roles, and there's so much work that needs to be done. It isn't all about civil disobedience. There's so much work that needs to be done right now. We need to raise funds, we need to make calls, we need to write letters. There's so much to be done. Donations, if you're able. There are so many ways to be involved. In the spirit of Yom Kippur, we need to ask forgiveness from the youngest generations among us. We need to ask forgiveness from future generations for being complicit in creating the climate crisis. We need to ask forgiveness for acting like we don't believe there's a climate crisis, even when we know there is one. And then we need to turn, teshuvah. We need to turn and do better and get involved. In her book, Facing the Climate Emergency, How to Transform Yourself with Climate Truth, Margaret Klein Solomon writes, "We can choose to turn away from illusion and distraction. We can each decide to face climate truth and make the choice that now is the time to do everything in our power to wrest life back from the jaws of extinction. We can each help to initiate a collective awakening to the climate emergency and a World War II scale response that protects humanity and the natural world and builds a beloved community." And she says we need to do it right now. Klein Solomon's short and excellent book helps the reader to work through grief that you might not even know is with you about the climate crisis. It reminds us that telling the truth about the climate crisis and working against it will actually make us feel better and lighter than staying in the passive mode. She notes that eliminating emissions by 2050, which is also often the stated goal of those who care, it isn't really fast enough. She calls for a 10-year decarbonization timeline. Ambitious, but if everyone who knows better did better, it is possible. Klein Solomon says that everyone can get involved in fighting the climate catastrophe and be a hero. And she writes, humanity needs as many heroes as it can get. Will you join the team? Everything in your life, including its most painful challenges, has prepared you for this role. Everything you've experienced and gained has prepared you for this mission. She goes on, there's something else on your side too. While I've considered myself an atheist for most of my life, and I've never found solace in the belief of an all-seeing, protective God, my climate work has given me a profound spiritual sense, she says. I do believe there is an unseen, powerful force on our planet that wants to live. It's a force that exists inside all of us. It's the reason our hearts beat without our volition. It's the reason we're able to breathe without conscious effort. This vital force ensures that we, along with plants, other animals, and even microbes, cannot help but seek out hospitable environments in which to grow. But this force also manifests in our collective desire to protect not just our own lives, but to protect all life, she writes. I wholeheartedly agree with Klein Solomon and her notion that we essentially need to come out of the closet as believing that there's a climate emergency, which probably means talking a lot more about it than we typically have done to this point. We need to speak this truth often and act as though we believe it too. You can, she says, choose a heroic version of yourself, a version of yourself that has a part in healing and even saving the world. You can be that hero. Just as those of us who belong to FCU have done such a nice job of working to find our individual ministries here, you can work to find your own heroic role in this climate emergency. You are needed. All skills are needed. As Klein Solomon writes, even though you don't have every skill, even though you have faults, you are good enough to do this work. By dedicating your life to a safe climate, you contribute to protecting all life. You matter. Indeed. Tikkun Olam. May we turn and embrace this calling. It is the time. May it be so. Blessed be, and amen. Our closing hymn is 219 in the gray hymnal, "O Hear My People," and the words will also be on the screens. I invite you to rise in body or spirit. If you are comfortable and the person next to you is willing, you can hold hands or touch shoulders or feet or anything you wish to feel connected. You could simply hold up your hands and feel the energy between us and with those of us online too. Friends, we can be heroes more than just one day, with apologies to David Bowie. We can be heroes every day. It requires a heroic effort to heal this world right now, to stand up for all life, to do what we know needs to be done, and we know needs to be done now. May we find the courage to find our place in this movement, and indeed turn and help heal the world. May it be so. Blessed be, and amen.
Hello, Anne. Would you like to be the host?
Sure.